and welcome to another episode of the Gear Room. If this is your first time here, my name is Forrest. As you probably got from the title of this video, we're going to be talking about first aid kits, specifically my first aid kit, and training. It is very important, even if you, whatever size first aid kit that you carry, that you also have the knowledge that goes along with that to actually help not only yourself, but to help others as well. What prompted me making this video today is I watch a lot of YouTubers, especially anybody in the outdoor realm. And so lately I've been watching a lot of backpackers and folks that do ultralight backpacking. And I've watched some of their, what I'm carrying in my pack, what's my base weight type videos for the Appalachian Trail and the Continental Divide Trail and some other things like that. Whenever they get to their first aid kit, it kind of scares me when I see something that looks just like this. A couple of Band-Aids, some Leukotape, maybe a couple of ibuprofen. They might be a little bit bigger than this with a few additional items, but it seems like this is what I see all the time. And that scares me a lot. I don't think your first aid kit is something you should be skimping on. In fact, I would expect that to potentially be one of the heavier things in your pack, excluding water and food. So today we're going to talk first a little bit about what is out there for training and the things that you can have, and then next we'll move into my first aid kit and take a look through my first aid kit. First aid training, why even take it at all? Well, it's kind of your insurance policy for being out there in the woods should something happen. It gives you peace of mind, knowing how to react in an emergency. It increases your safety, ensures that you're prepared to prevent injuries, whether they're minor or major. It's a way that you can help others in the community out in the backwoods, out in the wilderness. The other thing is it can develop or improve your risk assessment or risk management skills. And it can also help you in developing and improving your actual first aid kit. What should be in there? So let's talk about the different levels of first aid training. Most people have just a basic first aid CPR. Sometimes they even add AEDs into those these days. Those often, you can get those locally. Your local fire department, hospital, library sometimes put them on, colleges. It's a class that's 6 hours. Sometimes they'll extend it out to 2 days, depending on how they're doing it. The American Red Cross puts them on. The American Heart Association puts them on. They're very readily out there. You can get on either of those two. If you're going out in the woods, you should at the very least have that very basic first aid. The next step to take it even further and bring more of a wilderness context to that training is a wilderness first aid class. There's quite a few different organizations and colleges that put those on. I believe the American Red Cross even has a wilderness first aid course at this point. Wilderness Medical Associates, Wilderness Medical Institute are some. And that class is usually 2 to 3 days. And then a step up from that is Wilderness Advanced First Aid. Again, it's just going to give you a little bit more, and that's about a 4-day class. And those you get really quite a bit of hands-on experience in a class like that. You're going to learn how to really stop that bleeding. You're going to learn how to improvise the equipment that you have with you and use that to assist you with first aid. And the next step up, especially if you spend lots of time out in the wilderness or out in the backwoods, you should really consider taking a wilderness first responder course. Now, this is usually a pretty expensive course, $600 to $1,000, and it's going to take 9 to 10 days usually, probably around 80 hours. It's a very intensive course. You learn a lot of information really quickly in those courses. The other thing is they do a really good job of just building the whole time you're there. What you learn in the beginning builds on what you do next, builds on what you do next, all the way till you get to the end. Above that, there's even a few additional steps. Maybe you're already an EMT. You can take a wilderness EMT course. They also make it's like a bridge piece that if you're already an EMT, you can take this bridge that'll add the wilderness component to it and show you how to take those skills further. The biggest thing is with this, if it's going to take you more than 2 hours to get a patient from their accident site to definitive care, so basically a hospital, that's considered a wilderness situation. So it's always good to have references for you to read up on, study up when you've been out of the woods for a while, or just to keep that knowledge. Some of these things you may want to actually have in your first aid kit to help you remember different things. The stuff I have here on the table, a lot of these are kind of older books. I know this is not the newest version of the Knowles Wilderness First Aid book or the Outward Bound Wilderness First Aid book. I've also got this little backcountry first aid and extended care book. This is actually a great little book. I'm not sure how new this is. And then I've got this other little first aid flip book. Ones like these two are really good to have like in your first aid kit with you. You'll see I have a version of this book in my first aid kit. It's a smaller version of it. I have thought about trading that out for this one because this one does have some good information and better information than what's in there, but we can talk more about that later. But always having references like this is always good. It's also good to kind of have the most up-to-date ones so that things change over time, and if you look at a first aid book from 1972 and compare it to a first aid book from I think this is from the late 90s and one from today, there'll be differences in how to treat the exact same kind of injury. So it's good to have the newer books. Okay, my first aid kit. This is my first aid kit here. It's just an old REI stuff sack that I keep it in. I have thought about upgrading this to more of a waterproof container, but you'll notice inside here I do have this all wrapped up in plastic. It probably won't be great if it gets fully submerged, but rain, general moisture, that should all stay off of it. As you can see, it's just a tad bit bigger than the Algin bottle. And as far as weight, this weighs 1 pound 13 ounces, or a total of 29 ounces, or if you're into grams, it's 820 grams. And I know that sounds like a lot of weight, but this, like I said, this is your insurance policy. This could save your life, save the life of one of your friends, or some random stranger out that you come across out in the wilderness. So let's open this up and we'll go through what I got in here. Okay, let's start with a couple of tape type items I have in here. This is basically a generic Leuco tape. It is waterproof. It is nice to have. It's kind of foamy and spongy, and it stretches real well. So it's a really good tape to have. I just have some general. This is kind of a cross between like a medical tape and athletic tape. It holds pretty dang well. It's not waterproof, but it's good tape. And then this is actually something called Coflex. It's stretchy material, and it's tape, and it works kind of like an elastic bandage. This is one of those things that if you're not trained in how to use it, or if you're not careful, you can make this too tight and cut off someone's circulation. So this is something you need to be very careful about, especially if you don't have training. Next, I'll go with one of the larger items I have in here. This is a SAM splint. These are great for if you end up having a broken arm, leg, finger. This stuff is flexible. It's basically foam with a thin aluminum center to it. You can take scissors to it and cut it up and make it smaller if you need to, but this is great if you have some kind of a break, sprain, strain. It's even useful as well. Okay, these are EMT shears. These are a mini pair, but they're great for if I've got to cut this tape and I don't have a knife with me, or if you need to remove clothing. These are great to have a pair of. So these are just a couple of large dressing pads. These are good for putting on large wounds. They will soak up blood well, and they're just good to have in there. I've got 2 of those. They're slightly different sizes. So I have a medium roll of 3/4 inch wide stretched gauze. Again, good thing to have for controlling bleeding. You can also use this to wrap things like an arm. You can use it to help hold on to these pads to help hold them onto a wound. I'm going to find it right away because I know it's in here. I also have a small one. These are just compressed gauze pads. So again, good to have. Okay, here's just some gloves to protect yourself from blood. Very simple CPR mask with a one-way valve. Here's an elastic wrap. Strains, sprains, great to have for compression, and you can also use it for helping to hold on a SAM splint. Simple, light triangular bandage. You know, if you end up breaking an arm or something and you need to support that, you know, you've seen the old triangular bandage going up around someone's neck, holding it there. That's basically all this is. There's a couple of pins in here to help pin it together, but that's good to have. I have this SWAT T tourniquet device that I keep in here. I keep this one because of its size. It's fairly small and light. I do have tourniquets like this, like you're used to probably seeing police or the military use. I haven't decided whether or not to switch to this yet or not. Right now I'm going to keep this one in there, but I do own this style. I have a small irrigation syringe, so if you have an open wound that you need to debride, clean out, get the dirt and stuff out of, I have that. Some simple sealed cotton swabs. They can be useful for also cleaning wounds and helping get something out of an eye. There's a bunch of applications for this. Okay, I have this medications bag. This came from a company called Rescue Essentials. I believe someone gave me one of their first aid kits as a gift. And I basically went through that first aid kit, took out what I thought I needed for my first aid kit, you know, and sorted through it. I don't mind the first aid kits you go to the store and just buy and have it, but I think there's always room for improvement in just about any of those. And so for many years now, I have always made my own first aid kit. Actually, let me dump this out real quick. So there are some pills in here. Here's an anti-diarrheal. And of course this expired this summer. I try to go through my kit at least once a year. Usually I go through it in the spring, and then I usually try to go through it again in the fall, especially if I plan on doing some winter trips. But you always want to look at expiration dates if you have anything like this in there, and make sure you pull those out if it's expired. The other thing I just noticed, this is These are some antiseptic towelettes, and if you can see right here, there's some discoloration, so this one is leaked out. So there's a good chance this isn't even any good anymore. So some other things I also carry in this kit are some hydrocortisone cream, basically anti-itch. I have some double antibiotic ointment. I have a couple of these IVX cleaning cloths. This is for like poison oak or poison ivy. They're nice to have. And that's about it with the medications. And then last I have this thing, which is called a minor wound kit. And this here is basically your, pull this all out. So I do carry some tweezers in here. I got a couple of more different size gauze pads. I have some butterfly pads, knuckle bandages, some large bandages. Some of you are just regular old Band-Aids. A little bit of moleskin that was in here as well. Some tincture benzene. This is good for helping to get tape and stuff to stick. Or gauze pads. I always make sure that I have one or two of these around. This is basically where you throw all your garbage, your gloves. This is a biohazard bag, is basically what it is. It says biohazard all over it. So that's good to have with you. And then I have one of these, what is this called? Tegaderm film. It's basically a clear material that you can put over a wound. The nice thing is it's clear, and it will let moisture out but won't let moisture in. So it's a good way to be able to observe, like if you have a good laceration or cut. Once you clean it up, get it all dealt with, you can put this over it, and that way you can still see what's going on with it. You can check for infections and that sort of thing. Two more items that I have in here, last two items. I have just the sterile saline rinse that's in here that's good for if someone gets something in their eye, or it can also be used for cleaning out a wound. It's not very much. And last but not least, like I talked about before, I have this little first aid kit that's in here. There are a few things in this kit that I am missing, and that's a good reason for you to go through this kit every year. So one of the things I'm missing is something called soap notes. They are basically a way to keep all the information about a patient, and it reminds you what information you should be gathering. And they're just great to have. And then when you transfer that patient to an ambulance or onto someone else, that information go with them, and all that history and information is there with them. The biggest thing when it comes to putting a first aid kit together is you don't want to have something in your first aid kit that you don't know how to use or that you weren't trained to use. So hopefully you like this look at my first aid kit here today. Hopefully I gave you some ideas. If you don't have training, hopefully I've inspired you to get some training and get some books and read up, and don't be the person who goes, oh, I've got my first aid kit. If you got anything out of this video today, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, you can always go down below and hit that subscribe button.